You don't have to say everything. Not everyone deserves to know what you're doing. Every time you share a plan, you're giving away a part of your energy. You think you're gaining support, but in reality, you're leaking your own determination. The more someone needs external validation, the less internal control they usually have. And the louder someone is about what they're going to do, the less likely they are to actually do it. Not because they don't mean it, but because they've drained their motivation by performing instead of building. You don't have to prove anything. The fact that you choose action over words, silence over showing off, that alone is a powerful statement. The most valuable things in life don't bloom in the spotlight. They take root quietly in the dark, like a great tree that doesn't begin with bright leaves and wide branches, but with a silent seed breaking open beneath the soil, unseen. No one claps. No one validates. And precisely because there's no audience, it's free to grow into something strong and whole. Humans are the same. You don't need cameras. You don't need spectators. You don't need applause. All you need is one decision to build yourself from the roots. Look at today's society. People share every tiny step, every milestone, every late night, every cup of coffee with captions like trying my best every day. But the real question is, what are they trying for? The result or the likes? For themselves or for others' eyes? If what you're building survives only through recognition, then you'll collapse the moment the world turns away. But if you build from the core, with resilience, with honesty toward yourself, then no one can take that away from you, even if no one else cares. Here's a cold truth you need to face. No one cares that you're trying. This world is busy. Everyone is dealing with their own burdens. Don't expect encouragement. Don't depend on praise, because if you rely on applause, you won't be able to do anything in silence, and you'll always be led by what others see instead of your own internal direction. Understand this: when no one is watching, you have the chance to do it for real. When no one is expecting, you have the freedom to fail. When no one is judging, you have the right to try, to make mistakes, to learn, and to keep going without fear of being criticized. True growth happens behind closed doors, in those early mornings when you get up and no one knows, in those moments when you say no to comfort to stay committed to what you've chosen, in those quiet periods when you feel alone with no cheering, but you keep going anyway. That's how you accumulate strength. Not with flashiness, but with the decisions no one ever sees. Don't think silence is weakness. Silence is intentional. When you're silent, you conserve your energy. You stop scattering your focus. You escape the need to please others. And when you're no longer influenced by external gazes, you finally gain control over your inner direction. The fewer people who know, the more flexible you become. The fewer expectations others have, the freer you are to adjust. The fewer compliments you hear, the more you have to build trust from within. No need to announce it first. Just make it strong enough, clear enough, real enough. The end result will be the clearest explanation. Eventually, you won't have to say you've changed. You'll just show up. And your presence alone will be enough for others to realize you're no longer the old version of yourself. No need to convince anyone. They will see it. They will feel it. They won't be able to deny it, because what's built in silence always carries a different kind of weight, not from noise, but from depth. Don't make noise. Make progress. Don't seek witnesses. Prove it to yourself. And don't chase approval. Build something that no longer needs to be approved. When you can do that, you'll no longer need to be known. You'll become impossible to ignore. You begin to truly grow up when you no longer feel the need to let others know that you're growing. When you stop trying to perform your transformation, that's when you can actually transform. Real development doesn't need a spotlight. It doesn't need a stage, an audience, or applause. It only needs one thing: that you still sit with yourself when all the glamour has faded. In an age where everyone is trying to look like they're trying, your quiet effort becomes an unmatched advantage, because when you're not caught in the trap of needing to showcase, you get the chance to do it for real, to learn for real, to grow for real, without the pressure of making it look shareable. Performance drains energy. It makes you live for the gaze of others. And over time, it makes you forget the most important thing: who you're doing this for. When you post a picture with a caption like "The journey begins," you're giving away part of your internal commitment in exchange for external recognition. The issue isn't the post. It's the motivation behind it. Do you need to be seen, or do you need to become? Do you want to be recognized as changing, or do you truly want to change? Every question comes down to a core decision. Are you doing it for yourself, or are you doing it for the applause? There's a truth that few are willing to admit. The more you perform, the weaker you are inside. Because if you were truly strong, you wouldn't need to prove it. If you were truly certain, you wouldn't need validation. The person who needs clapping to keep going is the one who still doubts the path they're on. But the person who is secure only needs one thing: to take one step forward each day. It doesn't matter if no one sees. It doesn't matter if no one understands, because they don't need to understand. That's not their job. This is your journey. Real growth isn't glamorous, is not story-worthy. It's early mornings in silence, late night studying when everyone else is asleep, rereading a single page because you didn't get it the first time, battling procrastination, self-doubt, and the feeling that you're falling behind. And then still continuing, no applause, no background music, no spotlight, just you. And, your decision to keep repeating the mundane until you become solid and unshakable. You don't have to act strong, be strong. Don't pretend to be busy, actually work. Don't try to show that you're on the road to success. Walk quietly and let the destination speak for itself. Because if you do it right, there will come a time when every eye naturally turns to you, not because you made them notice, but because you're no longer the same. And that nothing can hide. Truly excellent people don't have time to perform. They pour all their focus into improving, correcting, and evolving. And what makes them different isn't speed, it's depth. They don't need to win fast. They just need to be sure of every step. Because they know one thing: the things that impress quickly rarely last, but the things built quietly and steadily grow stronger by the day. Who do you want to be between those two types? The one who gets early attention but is fragile, or the one who's silently resilient and irreplaceable? There will be times you feel a pang of envy when others show off their achievements while you're still quietly starting. There will be moments when you wonder, am I going too slow? Am I wrong not to share, in hopes of finding connection? But eventually you'll realize those who truly make it all went through a phase where no one paid attention to them. And it was in that silence that they built their strength. They didn't need applause, they needed results. Everything you're quietly working on now will one day tell its own story. And when that time comes, you won't need to explain, you won't need to defend, you won't need to provide evidence, you'll just need to show up. And that alone will be enough. No one will ask what you did. They'll just want to know, how did you achieve this? And the answer will lie in the hundreds of days you chose action over performance. When you stop performing, you finally go deeper into the real journey. You can finally face yourself seriously. You can learn faster, work better, and most importantly, live true to your real values, not a fabricated image. Real success always starts in silence, but when it matures, it echoes like thunder. No introduction needed, no gimmicks, just a strong enough foundation, and the whole world will have to listen. No one can give you real strength, no one can inject you with lasting willpower, and no one can carry the silent exhaustion that's quietly dragging you down day by day. Everything you're searching for, stability, confidence, breakthroughs, doesn't exist out there in the world. It lies deep within you. And only when you learn how to access it will you begin to truly change. Those who possess inner strength don't need crowds, applause, or to always be right in the eyes of others. They stand tall in the storm because they know exactly who they are and what truly matters. They don't resist with anger or stubbornness, but with clarity and inner calm. You won't grow stronger if you're still living to please others. Every time you adjust your goals just to gain approval, you're abandoning yourself. Every time you give up what you believe in because you're afraid of being misunderstood, you're stepping on the very foundation of your self-respect. And every time you try to look right in the eyes of the world, you stray one step further from the person you were born to become. True strength isn't the noise of the victor. It's the stillness of the one who no longer needs to prove anything. The one who isn't shaken by opinions, who isn't manipulated by fleeting emotions, who isn't lured by the illusions of instant success. When you act from an external reason, to be noticed, to be accepted, to avoid falling behind, you're building a tower on sand. One harsh comment, one small failure, one moment of neglect from someone else, and everything you believed in begins to crumble. But if you build from within, from a clear understanding of yourself, from personal discipline, from loyalty to your values, then nothing can bring you down. Even if others leave, even if the world turns its back, even if results take longer than expected, you'll remain solid as stone because you know you're not here to chase attention. You're here to fulfill a mission, whether anyone joins you or not. Stop waiting for permission. Stop apologizing for your ambition. Stop shrinking just to fit someone else's comfort zone. You don't need anyone's approval to be extraordinary. You don't need to be easily understood by the masses to live in alignment with what you believe. The world out there changes constantly. Trends shift. Standards evolve. Even values are bent for convenience. If you don't have a strong pillar inside, you'll be blown away by the wind. You'll be drowned by public opinion, by false expectations, by the endless trap of comparison. And then you'll burn out, not because you're weak, but because you no longer belong to yourself. But if you choose to build from within, if you choose to learn how to stand steady in silence, if you choose to stay committed when no one believes in you, if you choose to keep going even when no one's cheering, then one day you won't need to force yourself to be strong anymore. You will become someone others look at and see clearly. This person cannot be shaken. Steadfastness doesn't come from inspiration, it comes from clarity. Clarity about what you want. Clarity about what's worth keeping and what needs to be let go. Clarity about what you're living for and why you're willing to sacrifice. When you have that clarity, you won't need much motivation because every step you take has meaning. Every task you do leads in the same direction. And every time you say no to what's easy, you're saying yes to a better version of yourself. The world doesn't need to know how strong you are. What matters is whether you know, because if you do, everything else is just background noise. And if you don't, then no one can help you except yourself. Don't look for strength outside. Don't wait for a push from life. Everything you need is already within you, just waiting for you to stop being so busy with the outside world long enough to turn inward and begin building. No need to rush, no need to be loud. Just be steady, honest, and never abandon yourself. That is strength. And once you have it, you won't need to say a word. The whole world will feel it. Results are the only voice that cannot be denied. You can write down hundreds of commitments, say 1,000 times that you'll change, share all your inspiring plans on social media, but if nothing changes in your actions, all those words are just empty shells. People might applaud you for speaking well, but just one broken promise to yourself will crack the trust you have in your own word. And once you no longer believe in what you say, no one else has any reason to believe it for you. You don't need to shout to be acknowledged. You just need to be persistent enough to build something that can't be ignored. Because when the result is big enough, clear enough, real enough, it speaks its own language, no explanation needed, no justification. It appears on its own and silences all doubt. Those who once questioned you will have to reconsider. Those who once dismiss you will have to adjust their gaze, not because of what you said, but because you did something they never thought you could. We live in a time where everyone rushes to share every step of their journey. Every early morning becomes a photo. Every page read becomes a quote posted online. Every work session gets captioned with working hard every day. But the most solid things don't need an audience. You don't need others to witness your effort. If what you're building is truly valuable, it will emerge when the time is right. And when it does, no one will be able to deny it. Working in silence is a form of deep confidence. It's a declaration that you don't need to be seen to be significant, that you don't need approval to keep going, that you can stumble, get back up, revise, try again, all in the dark. Just so one day, your results are strong enough to speak for you. And when that happens, you won't need to answer any questions, no need to explain the silence, no need to recount the days and months no one noticed. Your achievement will say everything through its undeniable presence. Let the work you're doing quietly build its strength. Don't rush to share before it's time. Don't grow impatient about being seen, because if you're truly on the right path, then every minute spent explaining is a minute taken from action. Instead of saying, I'm changing, live as though you already have. Instead of declaring, I will success, is a certainty. And when the result arrives, you won't need to introduce it, tell it to show up. And the world will realize what happened not through words, but through the weight of what you've consistently built, quietly but relentlessly. Don't try to convince others that you deserve it. Build something that cannot be denied, because no matter how beautiful words are, they can always be doubted. But action once it becomes a result, carries weight on its own. And nothing is more convincing than living proof. Let yourself become that proof, not through speech, but through what you've quietly built day after day. No one wants to fail under the eyes of others, the scrutinizing glances, the vague whispers, the silence tinged with pity. All of it is enough to suffocate the courage of someone who's just beginning again. And that's why silence is so precious. When you build in quiet, you're not only protecting your idea from judgment, but also giving yourself the right to be wrong without mockery, to step back without being labeled, to try and fail without needing to apologize to anyone. The freedom to fail is a form of spiritual privilege. It's not indulgence or laziness, but a safe space for you to learn to adjust, to stumble, and get back up in the most honest way. But you only gain that space when you choose to work in silence, when you don't broadcast your plans, don't display every step, don't seek encouragement after every small misstep. Silence gives you the right to make mistakes in peace, so you don't have to both fix your errors and uphold an image at the same time. Too many people start something not because they're truly ready, but because they want to be recognized as someone who's changing. But that very desire keeps them from retreating when needed. They don't dare to restart when they've gone the wrong way. Don't dare to quit what no longer works. Don't dare to admit to themselves that they haven't done well enough. They're trapped in others' expectations, and so they choose to protect their image instead of correcting their path. They fear failure not because it's too painful, but because failing in front of others is too uncomfortable. When you choose to work in silence, you cut off the pressure to look like you've got it together. You no longer need to appear in control. You don't need to explain why you changed plans. You only need one thing: to be honest with your own process. There will be times when you're wrong, times when you're slow, times when you feel lost in circles. But if you're brave enough to not turn your journey into a performance, you preserve your right to experiment and to course correct without needing anyone's permission. It is in those unseen moments that you truly learn how to talk to yourself. You're not distracted by expectations. You're not caught up in trying to impress. You get to do real work, live authentically, choose again without shame, fail without justification. Every silent mistake teaches you more about yourself. You adjust better, you grow faster. No audience, no spotlight, just one person, you, who keeps going. Don't mistake silence for weakness. It's the inner strength of someone who understands that real progress doesn't need a stage. The most solid things are always created behind closed doors. The strongest people have all fallen quietly. No one knew, no one remembered. But precisely because of that, they had space to rise again, to restart, and to move forward without the burden of maintaining a facade. Let yourself be built from the inside. No declarations, no need to be seen, allowed to be wrong, allowed to begin again, allowed to lose your way and find it once more. Just one thing must remain unchanged: that you're still there, still working, still choosing to continue. And when you finally step out, no one will need to know how many times you've stumbled. They'll only see someone strong enough to still be standing, and that is more than enough. Inspiration gets you started, but only discipline takes you all the way. Inspiration is a fickle guest. It shows up on beautiful days when your mood is high, when everything flows smoothly. But the moment there's a bit of fatigue, a bit of delay, a bit of chaos from daily life, inspiration disappears without a word. If you're still waiting for inspiration to begin, you're placing your future in the hands of the most fragile thing. No one creates something extraordinary and fueled solely by fleeting emotions. Every solid structure is built on the most ordinary days, the days without fire, without motivation, but you still show up because you made a promise to yourself. Discipline doesn't have to be complicated. It begins with the smallest things: setting your alarm and actually waking up on time, writing a paragraph even when you've no ideas, finishing a task even when you're not in the mood. Discipline is the repeated choice between what feels good now and what is right in the long run. And the more consistently you keep promises to yourself in the small things, the more you build inner trust that you are someone who can lead yourself, even in moments without inspiration, without excitement, even without belief. You don't have to do a lot in one day. You just need to do the thing you said you would, and do it without negotiation. Disciplined people don't ask, do I feel like doing this today? They act because they already decided. They don't live by emotions, they live by standards. And standards aren't dependent on the weather, on moods, or on external circumstances. Standards are what you build and uphold like the foundation of who you are. And once you act from that place, you're no longer waiting for the right moment. you create that moment through your consistent presence. Not everyone likes discipline, but those who push past that hesitation become different. They don't wait for ideal conditions to move forward. They don't need inspiration to sit down and work. They don't have to feel right to make the right decisions because they understand. Consistency isn't restriction, it's liberation. When you no longer have to struggle every day with should I or should you free up a huge amount of mental energy that should be used for creating, learning, and growing. Discipline doesn't make you rigid, it makes you free. Free from indecision, free from procrastination, free from emotional traps that tempt you to abandon the right path just because you're not in the mood. A disciplined person is someone who moves with intention. They're not swept away by temporary tides. They're not easily thrown off by trivial interruptions. They live as if each day is a brick they're laying into their foundation. Solid, unhurried, on track. No, you won't have to be perfect. You just have to be someone you can trust. And that trust begins with discipline. No one sees you waking up early today. No one knows how many temptations you've turned down to stay on schedule, but you know. And that quiet knowing is what matters most. Because one day, when the results come, you won't need to retell the journey. You'll just smile and know that it wasn't inspiration, but discipline that got you here. And from that point on, you won't need anyone to remind you to begin. You'll be the one who starts every day until the things that were once difficult become second nature. You don't need to do something grand to become the best version of yourself. You just need to do one small thing and do it long enough. A simple habit, a right choice, a humble step, repeated day after day, is the most powerful tool that no one pays attention to. Not because it's too difficult, but because it's too simple for people to believe. This is what creates giants. We often get caught up in the illusion of big leaps, of overnight success, of inspirational stories full of spectacle, but the most grounded people don't come from bursts. They come from accumulation. They don't move faster than others, but they move consistently. No need to sprint, no need for noise, just don't stop. That alone creates an ever-widening gap between them and the rest. And every day you choose to do just one right thing, no matter how small, you're sending a quiet message to yourself. I am someone who keeps their word. Every time you wake up on time, write the right line, read the right page, eat the right meal, you're building a solid foundation no one can see. And it's those unseen things that truly nurture self-confidence. Not from applause, but from the silent pride, I did what I said I would do. Giants don't grow from special events. They grow from incredibly ordinary days, repetitive days, unpraised, nothing memorable, but they keep going. They don't need motivation every morning. They don't wait for inspiration to act. They don't expect something to come and push them. They are simply the ones who know, if I just keep going like this, sooner or later, I will arrive where I need to be. More persistence is also the antidote to the impatience this society is plagued with. You don't need to see results right away. You just need to believe that every right action is laying a brick into something silently growing. And that belief, if you can hold on to it, will give you calm on the days when nothing seems to be changing. There will be times you doubt, feel discouraged, want to give up. But if you remember, all solid things take time to form, you'll have enough reason not to stop. Success doesn't have to be big. It just has to be resilient. And what creates resilience is not big actions, but small habits maintained regardless of mood, weather, or circumstances. No one watches when you persist with something no one else knows about. But one day, that very thing will take you to a place where everyone has to notice. If you ask, how do I become extraordinary? The answer is, become consistent in the ordinary. Because when you can do the small thing without quitting, you possess a power greater than inspiration, greater than talent, the power of someone who knows what they're doing and sees it through to the end. In a world full of people who start and give up, the only one who reaches the finish line is the one who doesn't quit. And sometimes giants don't look like anyone else because they don't need to look like anyone else. They just need to keep going step by step, day by day, until the small thing becomes something great. Focus is no longer an advantage. It is a condition for survival in a world where everything is trying to steal your attention. Every day you're thrown into a chaotic stream of information, notifications, calls, messages, ads, trends, dramas, and real-time updates. And if you don't proactively filter, you'll be swept away before you even realize you're living someone else's life. People who don't know how to focus will always feel like they're short on time, not because they're too busy, but because their minds are leaking everywhere without ever staying long enough with anything. You may have talent, you may have great ideas, you may have opportunities, but if you don't know how to direct your full attention to one single thing for a long enough period, you'll never complete anything meaningful. Focus isn't a fancy option to boost productivity. It's what determines whether or not you'll create anything of significance. Because the world doesn't reward those who know a little about everything. It only pays attention to those who do one thing deeply and completely. Focus starts with decisiveness about what's unnecessary, not because those things are bad, but because they don't serve what you're trying to build. An unchecked phone, a meaningless conversation, a just for fun scroll through social media, an extra browser tab for convenience, all of these seem harmless, but every second you lose focus is a piece of your energy being fragmented, and fragmented energy can't build anything powerful. Successful people don't have more than you, they simply have less distraction, less trivial tasks, fewer unnecessary commitments, less wasted time. And that gives them a unique privilege to go deep, go thorough, go long enough to create something with depth. No one becomes an expert by working half-heartedly. No one writes something great between scattered scrolls. To create something of value, you need a mental space free from interference. And that only comes when you're brave enough to say no. Focus doesn't come from forcing yourself to sit still. It comes from truly wanting to do it. And to truly want it, you must be clear on why you're doing it. When your goal is clear, focus becomes natural. But if you let yourself live in a state of, I want to do this and that and try that other thing too, you'll never be committed enough to finish anything. Vagueness kills focus. And if you're not clear about what you're pursuing, the world will drag you toward what it wants you to consume. Living in this era, focus is no longer a skill you learn once and keep forever. It's a daily, hourly battle. You must constantly choose to stay, choose not to react to noises, choose not to get distracted by things that feel good but mean nothing. Choose not to drift along with whatever everyone else is watching, talking about, or chasing. Focus is your ability to protect yourself from chaos. And only when you protect your focus can you protect your future. Anyone can start, but only those who know how to focus reach the finish line. So if you're truly serious about building something for your career, for yourself, for your life, then the first thing you need to master isn't a new skill. It's the ability to lock yourself away from the noise. When you can keep your inner silence amid the external chaos, you'll realize you can do far more than you ever imagined. Not because you're better than others, but because you are fully present where others merely pass by. The more you talk, the more you risk losing your drive. Every time you tell someone that you're starting something, that you're going to change, that you have a promising plan, you're depleting the very energy that should have been saved for action. Sharing unformed intentions gives you the illusion that you've already begun, when in reality, nothing has truly been done. And when the feeling of having done something arrives before any real effort, you'll lose the urgency needed to actually begin. There's no need to announce, no need to prove, no need to ask for recognition. If what you're building truly matters, build it in silence, because if it's strong enough, good enough, powerful enough, it will eventually speak for itself. Results have their own special language, clear, decisive, and undeniable. They don't need an introduction, no explanation. They show up, and others will feel them. In a world where everyone is rushing to show things that aren't finished, those who quietly work become the minority, but they're the strongest minority. They don't waste time crafting impressive captions. They don't count likes, shares, or surface-level praise. They devote their entire focus to doing the real work because they understand one step of action is worth more than 10 lines of talk. And if there's anything worth showing off, it's the result, not the plan. When you talk about what you will do, you unconsciously put pressure on yourself to do it quickly, to produce results fast, to not fail. But true growth doesn't follow the schedule of expectations. It needs time, adjustment, room to fail without judgment. And you won't have that if you're too busy maintaining an image. You can't build and perform at the same time. One hand cannot hold a hammer and wave to the crowd. Acting in silence is a deliberate choice. It gives you the right to focus without being distracted by external attention, gives you the flexibility to pivot without being bound to public declarations. It gives you space to fail, to try, to learn, to try again, all without needing to explain to anyone. And once you do that, you'll realize real results don't need noise. They only need quiet persistence. From days when no one knew what you were doing, you don't need to say you're changing. You just need to actually change. You don't need to declare you're trying. Let each action you choose daily be living proof. A trustworthy person doesn't need to say much. They act. And that consistent action builds a kind of quiet credibility, solid, unshakable, untouchable. It's a kind of credibility no social media can build for you, no words can replace, no gimmick can fake. Silence is not weakness. It's the calm of someone who understands that everything truly valuable takes time to grow, and that time should be spent working, not talking about working. Let what you're doing reveal who you are. Let your results become an undeniable introduction. And when that moment comes, you won't need to say, I did it. The world will look at you and see, this is someone who doesn't need to say a word. The ability to delay gratification is what separates those who act on impulse from those who act on vision. In a world programmed for instant rewards, from phone notifications, social media likes, to instant delivery services, most people have become addicted to immediate satisfaction. We've grown used to being fulfilled, pleased, scratched in just the right spot instantly. But what comes too quickly often disappears just as fast. And what feels good right now often holds you back later on. Delaying gratification is not about forcing yourself into suffering. It's the ability to choose a bigger reward, even if it takes longer to arrive. It's how you tell yourself to mature enough not to be lured by what's easy. I don't need to feel good right now to stay on the path. I choose to invest not just money, but time, effort, and consistency into something of lasting value. Because I understand the winner isn't the one with the flashiest start, but the one who keeps digging when no one else has the patience to continue. And the things that give you immediate pleasure rarely help you grow. Watching a few more videos for fun, eating something delicious to lift your mood, delaying important work because you're not in the mood. All of these bring temporary relief, but quietly rob you of something more vital, momentum. When you keep choosing what feels good now over what challenges you in a meaningful way, you're digging a hole for yourself, a hole where everything is comfortable, but nothing grows. And the scariest part is you could live your whole life in that hole without ever realizing it. On the other hand, those who know how to delay gratification are the ones who can endure days without praise, mornings without motivation, moments when they say no to fun, food, spending, just to stay aligned with the goal that no one else can see. They're not cold-hearted. They're just the ones who have looked past short-term rewards. They choose the hard path first because they know the easier parts will come later. And when they do, they'll be infinitely more meaningful. Delaying gratification is also how you build inner strength. When you train yourself to say no to what's tempting right now, you're strengthening a vital muscle, self-control. And those with self-control aren't manipulated by fleeting emotions, aren't shaken by temporary circumstances, aren't seduced by cheap temptations. They're the ones who govern the pace of their own lives. Without rush, without following the crowd, they follow their inner standard, not external noise. Look at anyone who has achieved something extraordinary, elite athletes, great artists, relentless founders. They all have one thing in common. They've learned to say, not now, not because they don't want to enjoy life, but because they know every moment of enjoyment comes at a price, and they choose to pay the price first so they can enjoy freely later. Well, most people enjoy first and spend the rest of their lives paying for it. The ultimate weapon isn't in what you hold, it's in what you can walk away from. When you've learned how not to need it right now, you'll gain what others never will. When you know how to wait, you'll reach depths that urgency can never touch. And when you dare to pass through that surface feeling of lack, you'll arrive at the deepest level of abundance, stability, self-mastery, and unshakable growth. In a world where everyone's chasing what's fast, you'll be the one who earns what lasts. And that's what will make you different and irreplaceable.